I spent years working brutal hours to save my parents' home, believing I was building a future for all of us. Instead, they secretly rented it out behind my back and moved into my apartment like it was theirs to take. They used my loyalty like a weapon, but they made one fatal mistake. They underestimated the quiet daughter they thought would never fight back. And now, they're about to lose everything. The moment I handed my parents the final check to clear their mortgage, I thought I was handing them a key to a new life, a chance to breathe easy after years of struggle. I pictured them smiling, maybe even tearing up with gratitude, free from the weight of debt. Instead, I handed them a tool they'd wield against me for years to come, a way to tighten their grip on my life. I'm Emily, 34, and until not long ago, I was the daughter who'd do anything to keep her family afloat. The one who worked grueling 70-hour weeks as a legal assistant to save their home. The one who believed family was an unbreakable bond, something worth every sacrifice. That illusion shattered on a quiet Thursday night when my phone rang. Mom's voice spilled through, bright and syrupy, the kind of tone that always made my stomach twist. "Sweetie, we've got exciting news," she said, her words dripping with that familiar charm she used when she needed something. I should have known better. I was 17 when she'd borrowed my savings from my first job to fund my sister's dance lessons, promising to pay it back. She never did. "We found the perfect renter for the house," she went on. "Her name's Lila, and she's offering way above what we expected." My hand tightened around the phone. "Renting? The house I just spent 4 years paying off?" My voice was steady, but my heart was racing. "Oh, honey, it's a brilliant financial move," Dad cut in, his tone warm but firm, like he was explaining something obvious to a child. "And since you've got that extra room at your place." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I glanced around my apartment, my refuge after endless days at the law firm. That spare room was my quiet space, where I kept my case files, my books, my sanity. "You want to move in with me?" I managed, my throat tight. "Just for a bit," Mom said quickly, her voice pitching higher. "A few months maybe. It'll be so nice to be close again." I could almost see her smile through the phone, the one that always made me feel like I was being unreasonable if I said no. "Lila moves in next Monday," Dad added, like it was already decided. "Monday?" I echoed. That was 5 days away. "We knew you'd be okay with it, Em," Mom said, her tone softening. "You've always been our anchor." I ended the call and stood frozen in my living room, staring at the walls I'd painted myself, the furniture I'd saved for. The weight of their expectations settled over me like a fog. I thought of the years I'd poured into their mortgage, skipped, vacations, missed opportunities, the promotion I'd passed on because it meant less time to help them. I'd done it all thinking I was building something sacred, something that would make them proud. Instead, they were turning their home into a cash machine and claiming mine as collateral. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I pulled out the box, where I kept the mortgage records, every payment stub a testament to my sacrifice. My phone lit up with a text from Mia, my best friend from the firm. "You okay? You sounded off earlier." I met her at our usual spot, a dimly lit bar where we'd vent about work and life. I spread the mortgage documents across the table. "I thought I was giving them peace," I said, my voice low. "Instead, they're using it to take over my life." Mia's eyes narrowed as she sipped her wine. "Have you checked their bank account lately? The one you set up for them?" I hadn't. When I got home, I logged into their account, using the password they'd never bothered to change. What I saw made my blood run cold. Deposits from Lila Thompson, stretching back 4 months. They'd signed her lease long before their sudden announcement. They'd been planning this, playing me like a pawn in their game. Another text from Mom buzzed in. "Honey, we're thinking of bringing our dining set. Your table's a bit small for family dinners. You don't mind, do you?" I stared at the message, then at the bank records, then at the photo on my shelf. The 3 of us at the bank, me handing them the final payment, their smiles so wide I'd believed they were genuine. The next morning, another text from Mom. "Also, your sister might need to store some boxes in your garage, just for a while. You know how Ellie is with change." Something inside me shifted, a quiet snap after years of bending. I opened my laptop and started typing. "Dear Lila Thompson, I'm Emily, the daughter of your new landlords." Her reply came fast. "Emily, your parents talk about you all the time. They said you're so kind to let them stay while they make the most of the property. They're so lucky to have you." I shut the laptop and stood at my window, watching the city lights flicker. 4 years of my life to save their house, and they'd turned it into a weapon. But I'd learned a thing or two working in law. Every deal has a flaw. Every plan has a weak spot. And sometimes, the best way to fight back isn't with anger. It's with a carefully worded letter. Living with them was like watching my home become a battlefield, except the weapons were guilt and passive-aggressive comments. "Emily, These fancy coffees you buy, Mom said one morning, poking through my pantry. I could get better ones for half the price at the bulk store. I kept stirring my oatmeal, swallowing the urge to snap. 2 weeks in, they'd rearranged my bookshelves, swapped my curtains for ones they liked better, and suggested I move my desk to the closet so their bedroom could feel more spacious. And all these takeout containers, she added, clicking her tongue. No wonder you're still single. Men appreciate a home-cooked meal. My spoon froze mid-stir. I work 60 hours a week, Mom, sometimes more. Well, if you'd let us chip in for bills instead of being so stubborn, she said, her tone implying I was the unreasonable one. I own this place, I reminded her, my voice tight. There are no bills to chip in for. Dad looked up from his tablet. About that, sweetheart. Your mom and I have been thinking. The doorbell cut him off. Through the peephole, I saw Nate, my ex, holding a box of old case files I'd left at his place. Just returning these, he said when I opened the door. Mom appeared beside me, her smile instant. Nate, what a surprise. We were just talking about Emily's dating life. Nate shifted uncomfortably. Good to see you, Mrs. Carter. I didn't know you were staying here. Oh, just for a bit, she said, patting my arm. While we rent out our house, the one Emily paid off. Such a generous daughter. Her tone was warm, but her grip on my arm was a warning. If only someone had locked her down when they had the chance, she added, her eyes on Nate. The air thickened. Mom, I said, my voice sharp. Nate, thanks for the files. He nodded, his jaw tight. No problem. Text me if you need anything. After he left, Mom turned to me. You shouldn't be so distant with him. He was your best shot. I grabbed my bag. I have to get to work. At the office, Mia took one look at my face and pulled me into the break room. Talk. I spilled it all. Their invasion of my space. The subtle ways they were trying to reshape my life. The way they made every choice feel like a debt I owed them. You need boundaries, Mia said, stirring her tea. Before they decide your apartment is their new retirement home. They're my parents, I said, my voice small. What am I supposed to do? Tell them to leave? Mia raised an eyebrow. Why not? They didn't hesitate to take over your office. That night, I came home late, hoping they'd be asleep. Instead, I found them in my living room, papers scattered across my coffee table. Perfect timing, Mom said, her voice too bright. We were just discussing some family investment. I glanced at the papers, property deeds, trust forms, my address highlighted in blue ink. What investments? I asked, my voice steady despite the dread creeping up my spine. Just planning for the future, sweetheart, Dad said, his tone smooth. Nothing you need to worry about. But I'd seen enough. That night, I lay in bed, listening to their whispers through the wall. She'll come around, Mom said. Her name's already on the mortgage papers. It's just a matter of persuading her. My phone buzzed with a text from Nate. Your mom's still intense. Sorry about today. I replied, same old battles. Remember why we broke up? His response was quick. Yeah, you kept shrinking to fit their expectations. Don't let them do it again. Another text, this time from Mia. Check your email. Found some legal cases on family property disputes, just in case. I opened my laptop, the screen's light cutting through the dark. As I read Mia's research, a resolve hardened inside. Me. Mom's voice drifted through the wall again. Once we're on the deed, we can finally relax. Emily would never let us down. They had no idea how wrong they were. The next morning, I set my coffee down with a deliberate thud, making them look up from their breakfast. We need to talk, I said, my voice calm but unyielding. Mom's eyes widened, but her smile stayed in place. About what, sweetie? About how long you're staying, and about the trust documents I saw last night. Dad folded his newspaper slowly. Now, sweetheart, don't get worked up. Don't sweetheart me, I said, my voice rising just enough to cut through his calm. You're trying to add yourselves to my apartment's deed, aren't you? The silence was electric, like the moment before a storm. Mom's face shifted, her eyes brimming with tears. How could you think that of us? After all we've done for you? Her voice trembled, but I'd seen this performance before. All you've done? I said, my laugh sharp. I paid off your house. I gave up my savings, my time, my dreams. And now you're collecting rent on that house while trying to claim mine, Dad's voice boomed. We're your parents. Everything you have is because of us. No, I said, gripping the counter. I have what I have because I earned it. Mom's tears fell, right on cue. I carried you for 9 months. I gave up my dreams to raise you. And this is how you repay us? I didn't flinch. I've been repaying you my whole life. It's never enough. The days that followed were icy. They stopped talking to me directly, instead muttering about Selfish children, loud enough for me to hear. They invited their friends over without asking, moved my furniture while I was at work, and critiqued every part of my life in pointed whispers. At the office, I couldn't focus. Case files blurred before my eyes. Deadlines loomed like threats. My boss, Claire, caught me staring at my screen, my hands idle. Emily, what's going on? You're not yourself. I meant to brush it off, but the truth spilled out. The mortgage, their invasion, the trust documents. Claire listened, her face unreadable. When I finished, she leaned back. I've been a family lawyer for 25 years. Want to know what I've learned? Family doesn't give anyone the right to control you. That evening, I came home to a letter on my kitchen island, neatly typed, requesting I consider adding my parents to my deed for legacy purposes. Mom appeared in the doorway. We had a friend draft it, just to make things clear. I studied the letterhead. It was from a real estate firm that had closed years ago. A friend, I repeated, my voice flat. We're not getting younger, Emily, she said, her tone softening. And what else are you going to do with this place? You're not married, no kids. We're your family. Her words were meant to wound, but they didn't land the way they used to. You're wrong, I said, my voice steady. I have myself, and that's enough. Her eyes narrowed. Don't be so dramatic. Get out, I said, my voice low. What? Get out of my kitchen, out of my space. You have 1 minute before I call the police. Dad appeared behind her, his face dark. You wouldn't dare. I pulled out my phone. Try me. They backed off, but I heard them whispering in their room later. She'll come around, Mom said. She always does. And if she doesn't, we can make things difficult for her at work. I sat on my couch, shaking with anger and something new, clarity. My phone buzzed with a text from Mia. How'd it go? I typed back, they're threatening to sabotage my job. Her reply was instant. We've got evidence. Time to flip the script. I dug through my closet, finding the journals I'd kept as a teenager. The entries were a map of their betrayal. March 2008, Mom took my college savings for a family trip that was just a spa weekend for her and Dad. June 2009, Dad used my name to open a credit line, claiming it was for emergencies. Each page was a reminder that this wasn't new. It was who they were. My phone rang. It was Lila, their tenant. Emily, I overheard something you should know. Your parents were at the house yesterday talking about how they'll get you to sign over your apartment. They said you'll cave because you always do. My grip on the phone tightened. They said what? They're telling people you're going to let them stay permanently, that you'll put the apartment in their name. I thanked her and hung up, my mind spinning. Another text from Mia. Meet me tonight. Bring everything. At her place, I laid out my evidence, journals, bank records, photos of their fake letter. Mia's eyes widened. This is manipulation on steroids. We need to document everything. The next day, I installed cameras in my living areas and changed every password. That night, I overheard Mom on the phone. Yes, Emily's being stubborn, but we know how to handle her. Did I mention she got into some trouble in college? Nothing major, but her firm wouldn't like it. I texted Nate. Remember when my parents claimed I got in trouble in college? He replied, You mean when they called the cops because you stayed late at the library? I've got the police report. Another piece from my arsenal. I updated my will, explicitly cutting them out. Then I called Lila back. They're charging me double the market rate, she said. They claim it's for upkeep, but I heard them laughing about the profit. Can you document it? I asked. Already done, she said. I'm a stenographer. It's what I do. That night, I heard them in the dining room. Their voices sharp through the vent. What if she doesn't budge? Mom said. She will, Dad replied. Remember when she wanted to move out at 22? One sob story about my heart condition, and she stayed. I sat in my darkened bedroom listening to them plot over my own coffee mugs. My phone buzzed with messages. Mia, camera set, ready when you are. Nate, police reports sent. Lila, rental docs and recordings attached. Claire, my office is open if you need me. I opened my laptop and typed, Dear Ms. Warner, I'm requesting legal representation regarding property disputes and coercion. The lawyer's reply was swift. Ms. Carter, your evidence is compelling. Let's meet tomorrow. In their room, my parents whispered, unaware that their favorite tool, paperwork, was about to become their undoing. I've been thinking, I said at breakfast, watching their eyes light up with anticipation. About family, about our future. Mom's smile was radiant. Oh, honey, I knew you'd see reason. Let's have a family dinner tomorrow, I said, my voice warm. I'll cook. Dad nodded, pleased. That's our girl. I spent the next day preparing, not food, but evidence. Every word they said, every manipulation, caught on camera. Mia arrived first, carrying wine. Surprise guest, I said as Mom's smile faltered. Nate showed up with dessert, then Lila, with a folder of rental records. What's she doing here? Dad asked, his voice tight. She's family now, I said, since she's in your house. The doorbell rang again. Claire stepped in, followed by Ms. Warner, the lawyer they didn't know I'd hired. Emily, Mom said, her voice sharp. What's going on? Family unity, I said, smiling. Isn't that what you wanted? We sat at my table, the air thick with tension. Mom served her lasagna, her hands trembling. Before we eat, I said, standing, I have something to share. I pulled out a folder. Since we're discussing family property, let's see what you brought. Dad's face paled as Mom pulled out their fake deed transfer. We just want to protect our legacy, she said, her voice shaking. Interesting, Ms. Warner said, examining the paper. This letterhead's from a firm that's been defunct for years. Dad's voice was hoarse. Who are you? Someone curious about your creative paperwork, she replied. Lila spoke up. My rent's 50% above market. They said it's for maintenance, but I have recordings of them bragging about the extra cash. I played a clip from their late-night talk, plotting to undermine my career. Claire's expression hardened. We were protecting you, Dad insisted. By forging my signature? I spread out bank records. By draining my accounts? By threatening my job? Mom's tears started. Everything we did was for you. I nodded to Ms. Warner, who produced another document, including the house you're profiting from, the one I paid off, the one you leased months before you needed to move in. The room went quiet. Mia sipped her wine, a faint smile on her lips. Nate stared at his plate, his jaw tight. Dad slammed a new envelope on the table. If you won't cooperate, here's the deed transfer. Your signature's just a formality. Ms. Warner shook her head. Any transfer would be void, given the documented coercion. I placed one final paper on the table. Don't worry, I said softly. I've handled everything. Just sign. They stared at the eviction notice, their faces a kaleidoscope of shock and rage. You can't, Mom whispered. I leaned in. Try me. They didn't sign that night, but they didn't leave quietly either. The next morning, I found my photo albums shredded, my grandmother's quilt cut to pieces. If we can't have your home, Mom said, scissors in hand, you can't have these memories. I hit record on my phone. You're being filmed, I said, pointing to the cameras. Dad ripped another page from my law journal, teaching you about loyalty. The doorbell rang. Ms. Warner stood there with two officers. Put the scissors down, one said. This is our daughter's home. Dad protested. Actually, Ms. Warner said, it's Ms. Carter's, and you've been evicted. Mom clutched the quilt remnants. We're her parents. You have the right to remain silent, an officer said. Use it. I played the recording of their destruction. This, plus the fraud and threats, makes a strong case, Ms. Warner noted. Mom's tears were real now. You're abandoning us. No, I said. I'm saving myself. The officers led them out, Mom sobbing, Dad muttering about lawsuits. Claire put a hand on my shoulder. You did what you had to. I nodded, picking up a scrap of the quilt. I just wish they'd been different. Some parents don't deserve their kids, she said. My phone buzzed. Lila. They tried to break into the rental house. Cameras got it. Mia. Coming, with wine and trash bags. Nate. Proud of you. I swept up the remnants of their chaos, each piece a weight I was finally shedding. The doorbell rang again. Lila stood there with a thick envelope. Guess who tried to rent in my complex? Your parents, with fake references. I laughed, the sound surprising me. Where are they now? With your Aunt Karen, she said, showing me a post from Karen, already complaining about difficult guests. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. You've left us in misery. Is this what you wanted? Before I could reply, Mia texted, don't respond. That's what the restraining order's for. An email from Claire popped up. Emily, your work on the Warner case has earned you a promotion. Junior associate, effective immediately. P.S. Your parents' anonymous complaints only highlighted your strength. Lila grinned. They tried to tank you and launched your career instead. Nate arrived with a fern. For your office. You earned it. My phone rang. Karen. Emily. Your parents are saying you owe them money, that you stole their house. What's the truth? I sent her the evidence. Records, reports, recordings. Her reply was slow. They've been here a week and already maxed out my spare card. Need a lawyer? I smiled. I know a good one. Lila handed me the envelope. Their insurance claim for emotional distress was denied. Fraud doesn't pay out. I pinned the denial to my office wall. Next. To the eviction notice and restraining order. My gallery of freedom. Nate adjusted the fern. Your mom always said you'd fail without them. Look at you now. Not failing, Lila said. Thriving, because she outlasted them. I looked at my desk. At the new photo. Me, Mia, Nate, Lila, Claire, toasting to my victory. My real family. My phone buzzed one last time. Dad, you'll regret choosing outsiders over us. I sent a photo of my wall, my nameplate, my life. Then I blocked them. Dinner tonight? Lila asked. Karen's kicking them out tomorrow. We should celebrate. I grabbed my coat, leaving the ghosts of their control behind. Some families you escape, others you create from the strength they tried to break. I stepped out into the cool evening air, the weight of the day still clinging to me like damp clothes. Lila's voice carried over the hum of the city as we walked to the restaurant, her laughter sharp and infectious. Can you imagine Karen's face when she saw your evidence? I bet she's already packing their bags. Nate trailed beside us, his hands in his pockets, a quiet smile tugging at his lips. My phone stayed silent. No new texts from mom or dad. No veiled threats or tearful pleas. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe, like the air wasn't laced with their expectations. We settled into a corner booth at the Italian place down the street, the kind of spot with dim lights and breadsticks that begged to be torn apart. Mia joined us, sliding into the seat across from me, her eyes scanning my face. You look lighter, she said, popping an olive into her mouth. Like you finally dropped a boulder you've been carrying. I nodded, tearing a piece of bread. I didn't realize how heavy it was until it was gone. Nate leaned forward, his voice low. They'll try again, you know. People like them don't just vanish. I met his gaze, the memory of our breakup, flickering between us, not because of love lost, but because he'd seen how my parents chipped away at me, how I dimmed myself to keep them happy. Let them try, I said, my voice steady. I'm not the same person I was. Lila raised her glass. To the new Emily, the one who fights back. We clinked glasses, the sound sharp against the murmur of the restaurant, but the moment felt fragile, like a bubble waiting to pop. My parents weren't the type to slink away quietly. They'd always been a storm, gathering strength in the distance, waiting for the right moment to unleash chaos. The next morning, I woke to an email from Ms. Warner. Emily, we've filed the restraining order based on the evidence, including the property damage and threats. The court's reviewing it today. I'll keep you updated. I sat at my kitchen counter, sipping coffee, staring at the spot where Mom had smashed my grandmother's quilt. The silence in my apartment felt new, like a guest I wasn't sure how to entertain. My phone buzzed with a text from Karen. They're gone. Left last night after I showed them your files. They're staying at some motel now. I'm sorry, Emily. I didn't know how bad it was. I typed back, thanks for letting me know. You okay? Her reply was quick, shaken. They tried to guilt me into lending them money before they left. Said you'd ruined their lives. I set the phone down, my chest tight. Ruined their lives. The words echoed, familiar but hollow. They'd always framed their demands as my duty, their survival as my responsibility. But I wasn't their lifeline anymore. I was my own. At the office, Claire called me into her office, her expression unreadable. The partners are impressed with how you handled the Warner case, she said, sliding a folder across her desk. This is your new contract as junior associate. Higher pay, more responsibility. You've earned it. I opened the folder, the numbers blurring as I processed her words. There's one more thing, she added, her voice softening. Your parents sent a letter to the firm, claiming you'd mismanaged their finances. We dismissed it. The evidence you provided, bank records, their forged documents, made it clear who the real manipulators are. I exhaled, the knot in my stomach loosening. Thank you, I said, my voice quieter than I meant. Claire leaned back. You don't need to thank me. You did the work. Just keep doing it. I left her office, the contract in my hand, feeling like I'd stepped into a version of myself I'd only glimpsed before. But as I settled at my desk, my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. Emily, it's Aunt Karen's friend, Linda. Your parents are telling people you framed them, that you faked the evidence to steal their house. They're trying to rally support. Thought you should know. I stared at the message, my pulse quickening. Of course they weren't done. They'd lost the legal battle, the moral high ground, but they still had their oldest weapon, words. They'd always been good at spinning stories, painting themselves as victims, me as the ungrateful daughter. I forwarded the text to Ms. Warner, who replied within minutes. Noted. This strengthens the harassment case. Keep documenting everything. Mia poked her head into my cubicle, sensing my mood. What now? I showed her the text. She rolled her eyes. They're like cockroaches. You stomp, and they just scurry somewhere else. That evening, I found a voicemail from an unfamiliar number. Dad's voice, low and deliberate. Emily, you think you've won, but you've only made things worse. People are starting to ask questions about you, about that summer after college. You know the one. I froze, my finger hovering over the delete button. The summer after college, when I'd stayed with them for 3 months, helping with their business, only to find out they'd used my name on shady loan applications. I'd spent years cleaning up the mess, rebuilding my credit. They wouldn't dare bring it up, would they? I called Nate, my voice shaking. They're threatening to drag up old dirt. Stuff they did, but they'll twist it to make me look bad. He was quiet for a moment. You've got the truth on your side, Em, and you've got us. Want me to dig up those loan documents? I kept copies when we were together, just in case. I blinked, surprised. You did? Yeah, he said, his tone softer. I knew they'd pull something like this eventually. Lila texted next, her message urgent. Check your social media. Your mom posted on a community page saying you abandoned them and stole their retirement. It's getting traction. I opened the app, my stomach sinking. There it was, a long post. Mom's words dripping with hurt, painting me as a heartless daughter who'd turned her back on her struggling parents. Comments piled up, some sympathetic, others calling me out. Ungrateful kids these days. How could she do that to her own family? I screenshotted the post and sent it to Ms. Warner, my hands trembling. Then I called Mia, who was already drafting a response. Don't engage, she said. Let the lawyer handle it. But we need to counter this quietly. Maybe Lila can post something as their tenant, exposing the rent scam. Lila was already on it, her reply swift. Drafted a post about their overcharging. I've got receipts. Just say the word. I hesitated, then typed, do it. But keep it factual. No emotions. Her post went up an hour later, calm and precise, detailing the inflated rent, the fake maintenance fees, and the recordings of their boasts. She included a scanned copy of the lease, redacted for privacy, but clear enough to prove her point. The community page exploded, the tide turning as people questioned Mom's sob story. Sounds like the parents aren't so innocent. Who charges their tenant double for family maintenance? I watched the comments roll in, my heart pounding. It wasn't victory, not yet, but it was something. That night, I sat in my reclaimed office, the fern Nate brought, catching the glow of my desk lamp. My wall of freedom, eviction notice, restraining order, insurance denial, felt like a shield, but not a perfect one. My parents were out there, regrouping, rewriting their narrative. I opened my laptop and started typing an email to Ms. Warner, attaching every new piece of evidence, the voicemail, the social media post, Nate's loan document. They're escalating, I wrote. What's our next move? Her reply came at dawn. The restraining order was approved. They're legally barred from contacting you or spreading defamatory claims. We're also pursuing a defamation suit based on their public statements. Keep your cameras on and your friends close. I read the words, relief mixing with unease. A restraining order was a line in the sand, but my parents had never respected boundaries. They'd find a way to test it, to push me until I broke, or until I proved I wouldn't. The next day, I walked into the office with my head high, the junior associate contract signed and filed. Claire stopped by my desk, her smile rare, but genuine. You're handling this like a pro, Emily. Don't let them distract you. I nodded, but as I opened my case files, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You can't hide from the truth, Emily. We know what you did. No signature, but I knew the tone. Dad, playing his old game, vague enough to dodge, the restraining order, sharp enough to cut. I forwarded it to Ms. Warner, then texted Mia, Nate, and Lila in our group chat. They're at it again. Dinner tonight? I need my people. Mia replied first. Hell yes. I'm bringing the good wine. Nate, I'll bring the bad jokes. Lila. And I've got more dirt from the rental house. You won't believe what I found in their old files. I leaned back in my chair, the fern's leaves swaying slightly in the breeze from the open window. My parents thought they could rewrite my story, but they'd forgotten one thing. I was writing it now, and I wasn't alone. As I left the office, the city lights stretched out before me, a map of possibilities I'd never dared to explore. My phone buzzed again, another unknown number. You'll regret this, Emily. Family always comes first. I saved the message, my resolve hardening. They could keep throwing stones, but I was building something stronger, a life they couldn't touch, a family they couldn't break. I slipped my phone into my pocket and kept walking, the sound of my own footsteps steady against the night. I gripped my phone, the cryptic text from the unknown number burning into my eyes. You'll regret this, Emily. Family always comes first. The words were a splinter, sharp and deliberate, meant to lodge under my skin. I saved the message and slipped my phone into my pocket, the city's pulse humming around me as I walked toward the restaurant where Mia, Nate, and Lila were waiting. The night air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain, but my mind was elsewhere, tangled in the web my parents were still weaving. They'd lost their grip on my home, my life, but they weren't done, not by a long shot. Inside the restaurant, the warmth of the booth and the clink of glasses felt like a temporary shield. Mia was already halfway through a story about a client at the firm, her hands waving as she mimicked his outrage. Nate chuckled, and Lila leaned in, her eyes bright with the kind of energy that made you forget the world outside. But as I slid into the seat, Mia caught my expression. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice cutting through the chatter. I showed them the text, watching their faces shift. Nate's jaw tightening, Lila's brow furrowing, Mia's eyes narrowing like she was ready to march into battle. They're testing the restraining order, I said, my voice low, poking, just enough to stay under the line. Lila leaned back, crossing her arms. They're like vultures, circling, waiting for you to crack. Nate shook his head. They won't stop until they get a reaction. You know how they are. I did. I'd spent my life navigating their traps. Guilt trips disguised as love, demands wrapped in concern. But this time, I wasn't the same Emily who'd cave under pressure. I'd built walls they couldn't climb, and I had people who'd stand guard with me. Let's focus on tonight, I said, forcing a smile. Karen, kick them out, right? That's worth celebrating. Lila grinned, raising her glass. To Karen, the unsung hero who finally saw through their act. We toasted, but the unease lingered, a shadow at the edge of my thoughts. My parents weren't the type to retreat to a motel and lick their wounds. They'd find a new angle, a new way to twist the knife, and I needed to be ready. The next morning, I woke to a notification from Ms. Warner. The restraining order is in effect. Any direct or indirect contact violates it. I've also filed a motion for the defamation suit based on their social media post. Expect a court date soon. I read the message twice, letting the words sink in. It was progress, but it didn't feel like safety. Not yet. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mia. Check your email. Found something you need to see. I opened my laptop, my coffee growing cold as I clicked through to her message. Attached was a screenshot of an online fundraiser, titled, "Help Us Rebuild After Our Daughter's Betrayal." My stomach churned. The page was slick, with a photo of Mom and Dad looking weary but dignified, standing outside what I recognized as their rental house, the one I'd paid off. The description was a masterclass in manipulation. Our daughter, swayed by greedy influences, has left us homeless and destitute, taking everything we worked for. We're starting over, but we need your help. They'd already raised $2,000. Comments poured in, strangers offering sympathy, others promising to spread the word. How could a child do this? Praying for you? I scrolled through, my hands shaking, until I saw a familiar name. Linda, Karen's friend, the one who'd warned me about their smear campaign. I called Ms. Warner, my voice tight. They're running a fundraiser claiming I stole their house. It's public, and people are buying it. She was calm, almost amused. This is good, Emily. It's evidence. Forward me everything, and don't engage. They're digging their own grave. I sent her the screenshots, but the anger simmered. They weren't just lying, they were profiting from it, turning my fight for freedom into their sob story. I texted the group chat. They've got a fundraiser now, painting me as the villain. Lila's reply was instant. Are you kidding? I'm checking it out. Nate, they're shameless. Mia, meet me at the office. We're shutting this down. At the firm, Mia was already at her desk, her screen glowing with the fundraiser page. Look at this, she said, pointing to the donation history. Half these contributions are from accounts created yesterday, probably fake to inflate the numbers and draw real donors. I leaned over her shoulder, my mind racing. Can we prove it? She grinned. Give me an hour. Claire walked by, pausing when she saw our faces. What's the crisis now? I filled her in, watching her expression harden. This is fraud, she said. If Mia's right about the fake accounts, we can add it to the defamation suit. Keep me posted. I sat at my desk, trying to focus on case files, but my thoughts kept drifting to the fundraiser. How many people believed their lies? How many thought I was the monster they described? My phone buzzed with a text from Lila. Found something weird. Call me. I stepped into the break room and dialed her. What's up? Her voice was urgent. I was poking around the fundraiser site and I noticed a link to a real estate listing. It's not their rental house. It's a new property, a condo in the suburbs. They're trying to buy it, Emily. The fundraiser's a front to fund the down payment. My breath caught. They're using my name to scam people and buy a new place? Looks like it, Lila said. I've got screenshots of the listing, and their names on the inquiry form. Sending them now. I hung up, my heart pounding. This wasn't just about smearing me. It was about building a new life on the ruins of mine. I forwarded Lila's screenshots to Ms. Warner, my fingers trembling with a mix of rage and determination. They thought they could outmaneuver me, but they'd forgotten who I was. The woman who'd paid their debts, navigated their lies, and come out stronger. Wait, what would you do if you found out someone was using your name to scam others? Hit that like button if you're as fired up as I am, and subscribe to follow this fight. I've got a feeling it's about to get wilder. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to call out a lie like this? I'm reading every one. I stared at the screenshots, the condo listing glowing on my screen, a sleek, modern unit with a balcony, priced just out of reach for most retirees, unless they were crowdfunding their way there with a fabricated sob story. My parents hadn't just crossed a line, they'd obliterated it, but they weren't the only ones who could play smart. I opened my laptop and started drafting a response, not to them, but to the truth. That evening, I met Lila at her place, where she'd spread out printouts of the fundraiser, the condo listing, and the fake donor accounts Mia had flagged. "This is next level," Lila said, tapping the listing. "They're not just grifting for cash, they're planning to flip this condo for profit once the heat dies down." I nodded, my jaw tight. "And they're using my name to do it. Every donation is another stab at my reputation." Lila handed me a coffee, her eyes fierce. "So we expose them, not emotionally, calculated like they are. We've got the evidence." Nate arrived, carrying takeout and a flash drive. "Got something for you," he said, plugging it into Lila's laptop. "Those loan documents from after college?" I cross-referenced. "Them with public records. Your parents used your name on 3 other properties over the years, small rentals they flipped for profit. They've been running this game a long time." I stared at the files, each one a piece of my stolen identity. My trust betrayed long before I'd paid off their mortgage. "Why didn't I see it?" I whispered. "Because they raised you to look the other way," Nate said gently. "But you're seeing it now." Mia burst through the door, her laptop under her arm. "Good news. The fundraiser platform froze their account pending investigation. Ms. Warner sent them a cease and desist, citing fraud and defamation. And I found 2 more fake donors, both linked to your dad's old business email." I exhaled, the weight of their lies shifting, not gone, but manageable. "What's next?" I asked. "We keep the pressure on," Mia said. "Ms. Warner's pushing for a court order to shut down their access to the rental house profits. And Lila's got an idea." Lila grinned, holding up her phone. "I'm friends with a local reporter who loves a good scam story. She's itching to dig into this, especially with the condo angle. All we need is your go-ahead." I hesitated, the idea of going public both thrilling and terrifying. Exposing them could end their game, or escalate it. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. "You can't outrun family, Emily. We'll always be part of you." I showed the group the text, my resolve hardening. "Do it," I told Lila. "Let's tell the world who they really are." As Lila dialed her reporter friend, I looked at Nate and Mia, their faces steady, unwavering. My parents thought they could break me with their whispers and schemes, but they'd underestimated the family I'd built, the one that fought for me, not against me. Somewhere out there, they were plotting their next move, but I was ready. This wasn't their story anymore. It was mine, and I was just getting started. The city's pulse thrummed around me as I walked away from the restaurant. Lila's words still sparking in my mind like a live wire. She'd been adamant, her eyes gleaming with the kind of fire that promised trouble for anyone who crossed her. "This reporter's got teeth, Emily. She'll sink them into your parents' scam and shake until the truth falls out." Nate's quiet steps matched mine, his presence a steady anchor in the storm I knew was coming. Mia was a few paces ahead, her fingers flying across her phone, firing off updates to Ms. Warner about the condo listing and the fake donors propping up my parents' fraudulent fundraiser. My phone hadn't buzzed since that last text from an unknown number. "You can't outrun family, Emily. We'll always be part of you." But its weight lingered, a cold stone in my gut. It was Dad's signature move, a jab that danced just shy of the restraining orders line, meant to keep me looking over my shoulder. The night air was sharp, carrying the faint promise of rain, but my thoughts were sharper, slicing through the haze of their latest scheme. My parents weren't just trying to smear me, they were building a new empire on the ashes of my reputation, using a crowdfunding sob story to bankroll a suburban condo. Every donation was a vote for their narrative, a chorus of strangers chanting that I was the ungrateful daughter who'd left them destitute. But I wasn't that daughter anymore. I'd spent years bending to their will, shrinking to fit their demands, believing family meant carrying their burden. Now, I was rewriting the rules, and I had a team who'd fight alongside me. "You holding up?" Nate asked, his voice low, cutting through the city's hum. I glanced at him, his face half lit by a street lamp, and saw the same concern he'd worn when we dated, when he'd watched my parents drain me dry. "I'm not breaking," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "They can keep throwing punches. I'm ready." He nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips, but his eyes held a warning. "They're not done, Em. People like them don't quit." I knew he was right. My parents were a wildfire, burning through every boundary, leaving scorched earth unless you fought back with something fiercer. Back at my apartment, I stood in my reclaimed office, the fern Nate had given me catching the glow of my desk lamp. My wall of freedom, eviction notice, restraining order, insurance denial, stood as a testament to the battles I'd won, but the war wasn't over. I opened my laptop, the screen's light harsh against the dark, and found a new email from Ms. Warner. "The defamation suit is progressing. The fundraiser platform has frozen your parents' account pending investigation, thanks to the evidence of fake donors. We've also requested a court order to block their access to the rental house profits. Stay vigilant." I read the words twice, letting them settle. It was a step forward, but vigilance felt like a full-time job when your enemy were the people who'd raised you. My phone buzzed. A text from Lila. Got more from the rental house. Found old files they left behind. Shady stuff. Meet tomorrow? I typed back. Name the time. I'm in. Another text from Mia. Check your social media. They're doubling down. I opened the app, my stomach tightening as I found a new post from Mom, this time on a different community page. The photo was a gut punch. Her and Dad outside a rundown motel, their faces drawn, her eyes glistening with practiced tears. The caption read, "Our daughter's lies have left us with nothing. We're surviving on the kindness of strangers, but we won't give up hope." Comments flooded in, a mix of pity and outrage. How could she do this to her own parents? Stay strong. You don't deserve this. I screenshotted the post, my hands trembling, and sent it to Ms. Warner. The audacity of it burned, surviving on kindness while they angled for a condo, pocketing rent from the house I'd paid off, spinning a tale that painted me as the villain. I called Mia, my voice tight. They're playing the victim again, and people are eating it up. She didn't miss a beat. Let them. Every post is another nail in their coffin. Ms. Warner's building a case that'll bury them. I hung up, pacing my apartment, the walls feeling too close despite being mine again. They'd turned my fight for freedom into their stage, and I needed to rewrite the script before their audience grew. The next morning, I met Lila at a coffee shop near the rental house, the air thick with the scent of espresso and fresh pastries. She slid a folder across the table, her expression grim. "Your parents left a box of documents in the attic. I found it while checking for leaks." I opened the folder, my breath catching as I scanned the pages, loan applications in my name. From years ago, lease agreements for properties I'd never heard of, even a credit card statement with charges I hadn't made. "They've been using my identity for decades," I said, my voice hollow. "This goes back to when I was in college." Lila nodded, her jaw tight. "There's more. I found a draft of a letter they never sent, addressed to your old boss from 5 years ago. They were going to accuse you of stealing client files unless you agreed to co-sign a loan for them." I stared at the letter, the words blurring as memories flooded back. Mom's tearful pleas for family help, Dad's lectures about loyalty, the way they'd always framed their demands as my duty. "They've been planning this forever," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Every time I thought I was helping, they were tightening the noose. Lila reached across the table, her hand steady on mine. "You see it now. That's what matters. And we've got enough here to make them regret ever crossing you." I nodded, the folder heavy in my hands, each document a piece of the puzzle I'd been too trusting to solve. I texted Nate and Mia, attaching photos of the new evidence. "We need a plan. This isn't just about the condo anymore." Nate replied, "First, I've got more from those old loans. Meet tonight, Mia. I'm digging into the properties they flipped. This is bigger than we thought." That afternoon, I sat in Ms. Warner's office, the folder spread out on her desk like a map of my parents' betrayal. She flipped through the pages, her expression unreadable. "This is financial abuse spanning decades," she said finally. "The loan applications alone could warrant criminal charges, especially with your name forged. Combined with the fundraiser fraud and the defamation, we have a strong case for both civil and criminal action." I swallowed, the word criminal landing like a stone. They were my parents, the people who'd tucked me in as a kid, cheered at my graduation. But they were also the ones who'd stolen my future, piece by piece, and called it love. "What's our next move?" I asked, my voice steady despite the churn in my gut. Ms. Warner leaned back, her eyes sharp. "We file for a broader injunction to freeze their assets, including the rental house income. We also push the defamation suit forward, using their latest posts as evidence. And I'm coordinating with the district attorney's office about the forgeries. But Emily, this could get ugly. They'll fight dirty." I nodded, thinking of the motel photo, the tears, the lies. They already are. Back at the firm, Claire caught me in the hallway, her gaze piercing. "You're distracted," she said, not unkindly. "What's going on?" I hesitated, then told her about the new evidence, the condo scam, the decades of fraud. Her face hardened. "They're not just manipulators, they're predators. You're doing the right thing, but you need to protect yourself. Emotionally, not just legally." I nodded, her words echoing Nate's warning from the night before. Protect myself. It sounded simple, but it meant unlearning a lifetime of guilt, of believing I owed them everything because they'd given me life. That evening, I gathered with Nate, Mia, and Lila at my apartment, the folder of evidence spread across my dining table. Nate had brought his own stack of documents, printouts of public records showing 3 rental properties my parents had bought and sold using my name, each one a tidy profit they'd never shared. "They used your credit to leverage the deals," he said, pointing to a loan agreement from 2010. "You were 20, still in college. They didn't even tell you." Mia chimed in, her laptop open to a spreadsheet. I traced the properties. The profits went into an account you never had access to. They've been living off your identity for years. Lila pulled out her phone, showing me a text from her reporter friend. She's ready to run the story, but she wants to meet you first. Says it's more powerful if you're on record. I hesitated. The idea of going public, both exhilarating and terrifying. Exposing them could dismantle their lies, but it would also drag my name into the spotlight, inviting scrutiny I wasn't sure I could handle. What if they twist it? I asked. Make it look like I'm the one attacking them? Mia grinned fierce. They can try. We've got the receipts, and the truth is louder than their tears. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Emily, you think you're untouchable, but we know things your fancy firm wouldn't like. Mom's voice, cloaked in a new number, dripping with venom. I saved the message and forwarded it to Ms. Warner, my hands steady despite the chill it sent through me. They were escalating, testing the restraining order's limits, banking on fear to pull me back into their orbit. But fear wasn't my master anymore. I looked at my friends, their faces a mix of determination and loyalty, and felt something solidify inside me, a certainty that I wasn't alone, that I could face whatever came next. The next day, I met Lila's reporter friend Sarah at a quiet diner across town. She was sharp, her questions cutting through the noise of my nerves. Why now? She asked, her pen poised over a notepad. What made you fight back? I thought of the mortgage payments, the stolen savings, the years of guilt trips that had shaped me into someone I barely recognized. Because I realized they weren't fighting for family, I said. They were fighting for control, and I'm done giving it to them. Sarah nodded, jotting down my words. This could get big, Emily. People love a story about standing up to betrayal, but it'll put you in the crosshairs. You ready for that? I wasn't sure, but I nodded anyway. I'm ready to tell the truth. She promised to keep my identity low-key until I gave the green light, focusing first on the fundraiser fraud and the condo scheme. As I left the diner, my phone buzzed again. A text from Aunt Karen. Emily, your parents are crashing with a cousin in Ohio now. They're telling everyone you fabricated the evidence, that you're trying to ruin them. I don't believe them, but others might. I thanked her and sent the message to Ms. Warner, my resolve hardening. Ohio was far, but their reach wasn't. They'd keep spinning their web, pulling in anyone who'd listen. That night, I sat in my office, the fern's leaves swaying in the breeze from an open window. My wall of freedom had grown, a new printout of the frozen fundraiser account, a copy of the injunction filing, a photo of the forged loan applications. Each piece was a brick in the fortress I was building, but the foundation felt shaky. My parents weren't just fighting for money or property. They were fighting for the story, the power to define who I was. I opened my laptop and started typing, an email to Sarah, attaching every document, every screenshot, every shred of proof. I'm ready, I wrote. Let's do this. The next morning, I woke to a text from Mia. Sarah's story just dropped. Check the news. I opened my phone, my heart pounding as I found the article. A detailed expose on the fundraiser scam, complete with anonymized quotes from me, Lila's rental records, and Nate's property research. The headline was brutal. Couple accused of defrauding donors, exploiting daughter's identity. Comments were already pouring in, some shocked, others angry. Who does this to their own kid? Hope they face charges. I exhaled, the weight of the truth finally public. But the relief was fleeting. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. You think a news story will stop us? We raised you, Emily. We know your weaknesses. I saved the message, my fingers steady. They were wrong. They didn't raise me. They shaped me. But I'd rebuilt myself from the pieces they'd tried to break. I texted the group. Story's out. They're not happy. Dinner tonight? Lila replied first. Hell yes. We're celebrating. Nate, I'm bringing dessert. Mia, and I've got a lead on that Ohio cousin. This isn't over. I looked at my wall, the fern, the photo of my chosen family. Me, Mia, Nate, Lila, Claire, toasting to my fight. My parents thought they could rewrite my life, but they'd forgotten one thing. I was the author now, and my story was just beginning. The morning light filtered through my office window, catching the edges of my wall of freedom. Eviction notice, restraining order, insurance denial, and now the printed article from Sarah's expose. Its headline a stark reminder of the line I'd drawn. Couple accused of defrauding donors, exploiting daughter's identity. My phone sat silent, but the echo of that last text from an unknown number. You think a news story will stop us? We raised you, Emily. We know your weaknesses, lingered like a bruise. I traced the fern's leaves with my fingertip, Nate's housewarming gift, a quiet symbol of the life I was building, one my parents could no longer uproot. They were in Ohio now, holed up with a cousin, spinning their lies to a new audience, but distance didn't dull their reach. If anything, it made them hungrier, more desperate to claw back control. I sipped my coffee, the bitterness grounding me as I opened my laptop. An email from Ms. Warner waited, her tone as measured as ever. The article has put significant pressure on your parents. The district attorney's office is reviewing the forged loan applications for potential criminal charges. We're also preparing for the defamation suit hearing next week. Keep documenting any contact. I exhaled, the weight of criminal charges settling heavy. My parents weren't just manipulators anymore. They were a case file, a legal threat. Their decades of deceit finally catching up. But the victory felt hollow when I thought of Mom's tear-streaked motel photo, Dad's low growl through the phone. They'd raised me, yes, but they'd also shaped me into their pawn, until I'd learned to move the pieces myself. My phone buzzed, a text from Mia. Ohio cousin just posted online. They're stirring up trouble. Check it. I opened the social media app, my stomach tightening as I found the post from cousin Derek, a distant relative I hadn't seen since a family reunion a decade ago. His words were a punch. My aunt and uncle are staying with me after their daughter turned on them. She's spreading lies to ruin their lives. We're fighting back. Attached was a photo of Mom and Dad in Derek's living room, their faces weary but defiant, Mom clutching a tissue like a prop. Comments piled up, some skeptical, others outraged. Family betrayal is the worst. Hope they get justice. I screenshotted it, my hands steady despite the anger simmering beneath my skin, and sent it to Ms. Warner. They weren't just rewriting the narrative. They were recruiting allies, building an army of believers. I called Lila, my voice tight. Derek's in on it now. They're using his platform to spread their story. She didn't hesitate. I've got his number from when he rented a car through my friend's agency. Want me to call him? See what he knows? I paused, the idea of confronting another family member daunting, but necessary. Do it, I said, but be careful. They've probably fed him a script. Lila's voice was fierce. I'm a stenographer, Em. I know how to get the truth without tipping my hand. I hung up, pacing my apartment. The walls no longer closing in but still too quiet, like they were holding their breath for the next blow. At the firm, I tried to focus on my new role as junior associate, the weight of the title both thrilling and heavy. Case files spread across my desk, each one a chance to prove myself, but my mind kept drifting to Derek's post, to the strangers who believed I was the monster. Claire stopped by, her eyes scanning my face. You're carrying too much, she said, her tone firm but kind. What's the latest? I told her about the Ohio Post, the cousin's involvement, the growing wave of public support for my parents' lies. Her expression didn't waver. They're desperate, she said. Desperate people make mistakes. Use that. Her words stuck with me as I met Nate for lunch at a deli near the office. The smell of fresh bread and pickles a brief escape from the chaos. He slid a folder across the table, his face grim. I dug deeper into those properties they flipped using your name. Found another one, a duplex in Michigan, sold last year. The profit went into an offshore account. I flipped through the documents, my heart sinking as I saw my signature forged again on the sale agreement. Michigan? I said, my voice hollow. I've never even been there. Nate nodded, his jaw tight. They've been running this game across state lines. It's why they're so bold now. They think they're untouchable. I leaned back, the deli's noise fading as I processed his words. My parents weren't just scamming me, they were operating a network, using my identity as their skeleton key. What do we do with this? I asked. Nate's eyes met mine, steady and sure. We hand it to Ms. Warner. This isn't just fraud anymore. It's organized crime. The DA will eat it up. I nodded, the folder heavy in my hands, each page a reminder that their betrayal ran deeper than I'd ever imagined. I texted Mia and Lila, attaching photos of the Michigan document. New evidence. Dinner tonight to plan? Mia replied, my place. I'm cooking. Lila, bringing wine and more dirt from Derek. That evening, Mia's apartment was a warm contrast to the cold knot in my chest. She stirred a pot of chili, the spicy aroma filling the room, while Lila spread out her notes from her call with Derek. He's bought their story hook, line, and sinker, she said, her voice sharp. Thinks you're some corporate hotshot who kicked them out for profit. But he let slip something interesting. They're planning a family rally this weekend, some kind of public event to clear their name. I froze, the spoon halfway to my mouth. A rally? Like a protest? Lila nodded. Sounds like it. Derek's organizing it, and they're inviting local media. They're framing it as a stand against ungrateful children. Nate leaned forward, his brow furrowed. They're turning this into a spectacle. If they get enough traction, it could sway public opinion, make the legal case messier. Mia set the pot down with a thud. Then we crash their party. Not literally, figuratively. We get Sarah to cover the rally, expose it for what it is. I hesitated. The idea of escalating the public fight both tempting and terrifying. What if it backfires? I asked. What if they spin it to make me look worse? Mia's grin was fierce. They can try. We've got the truth, and it's louder than their sob stories. My phone buzzed, another unknown number. Emily, you can't hide from us. We'll tell the world who you really are. Dad's voice, cloaked in a new number. His words a knife aimed at my resolve. I saved the message and forwarded it to Ms. Warner, my hands steady despite the chill it sent through me. They were pushing harder, banking on fear to pull me back into their orbit, but I wasn't the same woman who'd once crumbled under their threats. I looked at my friends, their faces a constellation of loyalty and fight, and felt a spark of something fierce, a certainty that I could face whatever they threw next. The next day, I met Sarah at her office, a cluttered space filled with coffee cups and news clippings. She listened as I outlined the rally, her eyes narrowing with interest. "This is gold," she said, scribbling notes. "A public stunt like this, built on lies? I can get a crew there, but we need to be strategic. If we confront them directly, they'll play the victim card." I nodded, thinking of Mom's tearful motel photo, Dad's calculated growls. "What if we don't confront them?" I said. "What if we let their own words bury them?" Sarah's smile was sharp. "I like it. We'll record the rally, cross-reference their claims with your evidence, and let the facts speak." As I left her office, my phone buzzed again. A text from Derek. "Emily, I don't know what you've done, but you should talk to us. You're tearing our family apart, and we're going to show the world the truth this weekend. Come see for yourself." I stared at the message, my pulse quickening. Derek wasn't just a bystander. He was a soldier in their war, and the rally was their battlefield. I forwarded the text to Ms. Warner and Sarah, my resolve hardening. They wanted a show? I'd give them one they wouldn't forget. That afternoon, I sat in Ms. Warner's office. The Michigan documents and rally details spread across her desk. She flipped through the pages, her expression grim. "This rally is a desperate move," she said. "They're trying to sway public opinion before the defamation hearing, but it's also a chance to catch them violating the restraining order or committing new fraud. I'm sending an investigator to Ohio to monitor the event." I nodded, the weight of her words settling in. The rally wasn't just a stunt, it was a trap. One they hoped I'd stumble into. But I wasn't stumbling anymore. I was running, and I was faster than they knew. Back at my apartment, I stared at my wall of freedom, the fern casting shadows across the document. My phone buzzed, a text from Mia. "Rally's tomorrow. Sarah's crew is set. We're driving to Ohio tonight. You in?" I typed back, "Absolutely. Let's end this." Nate replied, "Road trip vibes. I'm driving. Lila. I've got snacks and a playlist. This is war." I smiled, the warmth of their support a shield against the storm I knew was coming. My parents thought they could rewrite my story, drag me back into their narrative of guilt and control. But they'd forgotten who I was, the woman who'd paid their debts, survived their lies, and built a family stronger than their poison. The rally was their stage, but I was ready to steal the spotlight. As I packed a bag for Ohio, my phone buzzed again, another unknown number. "Emily, you can't run from the truth. We'll see you tomorrow, and the world will know what you've done." Mom's voice, sharp and venomous, a final taunt before their big show. I saved the message, my hands steady, and added it to the growing file for Ms. Warner. They thought they knew my weaknesses, but they'd raised a fighter, and I was just getting started. The road to Ohio stretched ahead, a path to the next battle, and I was ready to face it with my chosen family. By my side, their loyalty a flame no lie could extinguish.
Emily's fight showed us how truth can unravel even the deepest family betrayals, turning lies into a path to freedom. But what happens when someone else discovers a secret that could shatter their entire life? There's another story waiting, where one choice changes everything. It's right here on the channel, ready to pull you in with twists you won't see coming. Click to uncover the next journey. It's a tale of courage you can't miss.